Hey Bullfrogs, this is Miss Betterton. Back to read chapter 10 and 11, trying to figure out what happens. How does this end? We want to know what ends up happening after the pirates take off. So, here we go. Let's read. Chapter 10 is called Thanks a Million. Jack pushed his glasses into place and opened a history of New Orleans music. What's that, man? Dipper asked. It's a history book, said Jack. Teddy and Kathleen gave it to us, said Annie. Oh, yeah, my best friends, said Dipper. Jack looked in the index of the book. He found the right page and turned to it. I'm going to read something to you, man, said Jack. Just listen. And Jack read. As a young teenager, Louis Armstrong often performed with kids' bands on the streets of the city. Eventually, he played with older musicians in dance halls, and he developed his musical talents performing on Mississippi riverboats. When he was 21, he moved to Chicago, where he played in the well-known band of his old friend Joe Oliver. Joe Oliver, said Dipper. Joe's in that book? I'm in that book? Yep, hold on, there's more, said Jack. He read, over time, Louis Armstrong became world famous, but he always called New Orleans home. The city honored him by naming a large park, the Louis Armstrong Park. It also named its airport the Louis Armstrong International Airport. What's that, International Airport? Asked Dipper. That's where planes fly in and out from all over the world, said Annie. Dipper started laughing. Y'all are pulling my leg. No, said Jack, we're not. Look at this, Dipper. He held up the book and showed Dipper the picture of Louis Armstrong, the king of jazz, playing the trumpet in front of a huge crowd. That's you, Dipper. Jack waited for Dipper to laugh and say the picture wasn't him. But Dipper stopped smiling and nodded. Yeah, I've seen that picture before, he said softly. You have? Said Jack, stunned. You've seen this picture before? Said Annie. Where? Here, Dipper touched his chest. Here in my heart. It's the picture I've had in my heart for a long time, like a dream. Hey, y'all, is this a dream? Jack and Annie laughed. Annie smiled. Yes, you could say that, she said. But it's a true dream, said Jack. Keep that picture in your heart, Dipper, said Annie. Hold it close to you, and one day you'll be living it, we promise. For a long time, the three of them just stared at the picture. When Jack looked at Dipper again, he saw tears glistening in Dipper's eyes. Okay, I'll do that, said Dipper. He wiped his eyes with the palms of his hands. I think I can keep my jobs and start making a little more room for my music, too. Yes, said Annie. Maybe you should go play with the fellows on the riverboat tonight, said Jack. Yeah, maybe I'll try and do that, said Dipper. Great, said Annie. Jack heaved a sigh that put away their book. Dipper stood up. But now y'all have to get going. On the eve of All Saints' Day, there's a curfew for kids under 13. They have to be off the streets by 9, or the paddy wagon will pick them up. So, you're definitely on the path to sharing your musical gift with the world, right, man? Asked Jack. Dipper laughed. I reckon I am, he said, thanks to a couple of potato heads. Okay, good, said Jack. He and Annie stood up. To get home, we need to walk to Bourbon Street and catch a streetcar to Canal Street. Let's go, said Dipper. The three of them left the waterfront. They walked past Jackson Square and headed past the cathedral on St. Peter Street. I'll walk y'all back to Bourbon Street, said Dipper. Then do you have time to ride back with us to Canal Street? Said Annie, so we can hang out together a little longer on the train? You know I can't do that, said Dipper. They won't let me sit with y'all on the streetcar. Why not? Asked Jack. I'd have to sit in the back while y'all sit up front, said Dipper. What are you talking about? Said Annie. Y'all are white. I'm black, said Dipper. So, said Annie, black folks aren't allowed to sit with white folks. That's the way it is, said Dipper. "Are you kidding? That's crazy," said Annie. "No, I'm not kidding," said Dipper. He stopped walking and looked closely at Jack and Annie. "Where are y'all from? How'd you get that crazy history book with my picture in it? And why'd y'all come here to find me?" "It's really, really hard to explain, Dipper," said Jack. "But just know this. One day, things are going to change. Everybody will sit together on trains and buses and planes. And one day, an African-American man will run for president of the United States," said Annie. "And millions of people of all colors will vote for him. And he'll win," said Jack. Dipper laughed and shook his head. "Okay, now I know I'm dreaming," he said. "But I really like this dream." "It's the truth," said Annie. "We promise." By now they had come to the corner of St. Peter and Bourbon Street. "This is where I leave you," said Dipper. Annie threw her arms around Dipper and gave him a big hug. "Goodbye, Dipper." Jack did the same. "Bye, man," he said. "Thanks a million." "Same to you," said Dipper. "Hey, there's your streetcar now." The streetcar glided to a stop at the corner. Jack and Annie hopped aboard and sat in front. As the streetcar went up Bourbon Street, they stuck their heads out the window and waved to Dipper. He waved back. Jack and Annie waved and waved until they couldn't see Dipper anymore. Chapter 11. This is the last chapter. We made it to the end. Swing that music. As the streetcar rumbled down Canal Street, Jack looked over his shoulder. Dipper was right. African Americans were sitting in the back, while only white people were in the front. Jack hadn't even noticed it on their first streetcar ride. Jack's heart felt heavy. Why would anyone not want to sit next to someone just because they are a different color, he wondered. How could anyone ever be mean to Dipper? Dipper, who is gentle and friendly and kind. Dipper, who hears music everywhere. Jack listened to the click-clack of the streetcar rolling down the tracks. The sound had a good beat. Jack tapped his hand against his knee until the streetcar came to a stop. "Let's go," said Annie. Jack and Annie stood up. Canal Street was bright with lights. People were still selling things on the sidewalk. "What time is it, please?" Jack asked the conductor. 5 minutes after 9, boy," said the conductor. "Y'all better head for home." "We are," said Annie. Jack and Annie hopped off the streetcar and started to run. They ran to the bottom of Canal Street and crossed to the palm trees in the grove near the Mississippi River. In the dark they found the rope ladder and scrambled up it into the treehouse. Jack grabbed the Pennsylvania book that would take them home. "Wait," said Annie, looking out the window. "Look!" A brightly lit Mississippi showboat was rolling up the river. A large paddle wheel behind the boat was churning the water. Music was coming from on board. There's the boat. Wonder who's on the boat. We'll see. Annie grabbed Jack's arm. "Listen, the heebie-jeebies," she said. Jack listened. He could hear the trio singing. Little Mac, Happy, and Big Nose Sidney. But the best sound of all was the bright sound of a horn sailing through the New Orleans night. "It's Dipper," said Annie. "It's gotta be." "He caught the boat," said Jack, "just in time." Jack and Annie listened to the joyful singing sound of Dipper's music until the riverboat rolled out of sight. Jack heaved a happy sigh. Then he pointed to their Pennsylvania book. "I wish we could go home," he said. The wind began to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Man, I wish y'all were in here with me. Because my kids, y'all know, y'all always read that part with me, and I love it. But I know you're at home right now reading that part with me, so I'm excited. Jack and Annie were wearing their own clothes again. Rain tapped gently against the roof of the treehouse. A cool breeze blew through the window. We have to get home before Mom and Dad wake up, said Annie. Right, said Jack. He pulled a history of New Orleans music out of his backpack and left it in the floor. Annie put the trumpet beside it. Then they headed down the rope ladder. They pulled up their rain hoods. As they tramped in their boots through the wet autumn woods, they were both quiet. Excuse me. Finally, Annie said, I feel good. I feel good too, said Jack. We accomplished our mission. But I feel other things too, said Annie. I feel mad that Dipper couldn't sit on the streetcar with us. Me too, said Jack. And it wasn't just in New Orleans. A long time ago, they had laws like that in lots of places. Unbelievable, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. And I feel scared when I think of those spiders in their webs, said Annie. Oh, they didn't bother anybody, said Jack. But I still feel scared when I think of ghosts. Actually, they didn't bother anybody either, said Annie. True, said Jack. And neither did that bat, Annie laughed. That's true too, she said. I feel sad when I think we'll never see Dipper again. We can listen to his music, said Jack. Yeah, and I guess the music all around us will always make us think of him, said Annie. Like right now, Dipper would hear the music of the rain. Tappity tap tap, said Jack. And the music of our feet scrunching over the dead leaves, said Annie. Scrunchity scrunch scrunch, said Jack. Patty pat pat, said Annie. Skidat dee dat, sang Jack. Skidat dee do, sang Annie. Go, Mama, go, shouted Jack. And the two of them ran out of the Frog Creek woods and up their street, heading for home. That was so good. What an awesome book. All right, don't forget there's more facts from Jack and Annie in the back that Mary Pope Osborne, she does all the research for each of her books that she writes. So read that part on your own. And it looks like there's some other really cool things in the back of this book. That was such a good book. I'm so glad you got to read that with me. Hopefully you are ready to start up book number 43, Leprechaun in Late Winter, also by Mary Pope Osborne. If you don't have this one yet, if you're not ready, the cool thing about me doing videos is you can read them and look at them anytime you're ready. So try to go get this book or try to check it out of your library. And I'm going to start recording this and have it ready. But I love that you're reading this with me. Remember, every time you read, you're practicing and you're getting better at reading. And it's going to make you a better reader every time you read a book. And when you go upstairs to 3rd grade, you're going to do awesome because you've been reading all summer long. I'm so proud of y'all, and I'm so excited that you're reading these books with me. All right, y'all have a good summer, and get some swimming time in. Maybe take a good book and read by the pool while you dry off and get some sun. All right, see y'all soon.